General Overseer reporting for duty again. So, now that the General's back, we have a lot to discuss, my Minutemen militia. In the last episode, we had stumbled upon the echoes of past quests, creation club that was package that was added by Bethesda into the game. It involves the Enclave and gives them a purpose for being in the Commonwealth and involves them because they weren't previously in the game, in the base game. And we track down their main headquarters, and a huge battle ensued on the rooftop that ended in a fiery vertibird crash and a lot of death claws and a lot of casualties on their side, honestly. But some badass power armor for the Minutemen. But if you didn't see that, go check it out. It's a very, very entertaining episode. However, what we can do from that is carry the momentum over to crushing the Enclave into today's episode. So, after raiding their base in the Glowing Sea, we recovered some intel, letting us know areas of interest that they have set up encampments at that we can go to and we can eradicate them. So, in order to completely stomp out our Enclave problem, we're going to try to focus on getting rid of as many of these camps as possible. Now, the thing with the Enclave is they're not just like any other enemy or faction in the Fallout universe. They're different. They don't just use guns or weapons or influence to fight. They use propaganda. They use dirty tactics. They use Cold War style tactics. We have a long going history with this faction throughout the franchise, and this game's no different. What is different, however, is the Enclave's influence and their position of power in this game. In previous titles in the franchise, we've seen them as a major threat, in one of the games, even the major antagonist for the Lone Wanderer. So in this game, you would expect to see the same. However, you get a very, very different side of them. Due to the events of the Broken Steel DLC in Fallout 3, we know that they were kind of in shambles at the end of it. We really weren't sure what happened to them besides the few camps that get set up around the game, the map. Now, going into Fallout 4, it would seem that they have not only survived, but they have numbers, they have access to technology, and they have a lot of power armor, honestly. So, where do the Enclave get the resources from? What do they want with the Commonwealth and the rest of the world? In order to answer these questions and to get a better look at our enemy, we must first take a look at their origins and see what their ambitions are as we take a look at where they get their start. The Enclave first originated as a shadow government within the United States government before the Great War. So before the bombs even dropped, these guys were already established. They were, however, composed of high-ranking officials, military leaders, and industrial elites who believed that they were the true leaders of the nation. So, pretty much a group of elitists. Now, this group secretly operated behind the scenes, and that is why they were able to control aspects of the government and the economy while also maintaining a facade of democratic governance for the people. So essentially, they were like the pre-war equivalent of the deep state, I guess. Let's say. Here's a brief overview of known Enclave locations that have varied throughout the Fallout series. Some of these reflect their shifts in power throughout the games too. So the primary bases are in California at the Navarro Mariposa military base, in Nevada, the Remnants bunker. They have one in Illinois, Chicago refuel station. In Maryland, they have the Adams Air Force Base in Raven Rock, or at least they did. In Virginia, they have Project Purity and Jefferson Memorial. And in good old West Virginia, they have the White Spring Bunker, which reemerged after the Great War. Alright, so now that we know where the Enclave started from, where do we first see them in Fallout? Where do they first show up? So the Enclave show up in the original Fallout game. In the original game, they have a role that is more subtle, but just as sinister as some of their other instances in the Commonwealth or Wasteland. Now, they're not the primary antagonist in the first game, but they do have a lot of influence and a lot of power throughout the game, and it's felt pretty early on by the player. Now, there's three categories I'm going to put them under for the first game because they don't have, like I said, they don't have the biggest presence, but they're known. So the first one would be their experimentation. That's what I categorize them under. So the Enclave is responsible for multiple experiments, some using means to study the effects of radiation and its side effects on humans. This experimentation laid the groundwork for their later, more extreme projects. So they're not the good guys, even way back at the original one. They never were good. Next category, technological advancement. So, many of the advanced technologies that are found throughout the wasteland, such as power armor, energy weapons, have origins due to the Enclave's research and development. So that's pretty interesting compared or considering how widespread both of those two things are throughout the Fallout games. And the third and final category for the Enclave in Fallout 1 is the Shadow Government. The Enclave's remnants continue to operate in the shadows, pulling strings and manipulating events to suit their ultimate goals of retaking power and cleansing the United States, even well after the bombs have dropped and humanity has stopped. So they're not as overt as in later games, but the original Fallout definitely establishes the Enclave as a powerful, manipulative faction, and they set the stage for their expansive role in the titles coming up, which is pretty cool to see that they thought that far ahead. But I mean, go figure. Now, fast traveling all the way over to Fallout 2, where the Enclave is also involved. Now, the Enclave's primary operations in Fallout 2 revolve solely around their massive oil rig or base of operations on the oil rig. This floating fortress of theirs serves as a main base of operations as well as a symbol of their power and influence throughout the wasteland. Really sounds a lot like the Predwin in the Commonwealth, if you ask me. Now, from the oil rig, the Enclave conduct their own operations as well as experiments without any issues or interference. So for this title, we're going to use four categories to put them under. The first being resource acquisition. So throughout every game, this one specifically, they're very good at exploiting the wasteland's resources. This includes water and other things for their own purposes, of course. They also take advantage of the slave trade. So the Enclave have captured and enslaved people, and they make them serve as laborers or subjects for their experiments. The next category would be technological research. They conduct advanced research, which often involves experimentation on humans. However, they think the means justify the ends because of the fact that they are getting the better technology and technically advancing their own forces. Not saying it's the right thing, that's just saying that's what they think. So, in the fourth and final category, would be their military expansion. So the Enclave seek to expand their territory and influence, but they want to do this by subjugating every other faction and bending them to their will. So the oil rig also serves as a production facility for advanced weaponry and technology. This further solidifies that their position is dominant throughout the wasteland in this franchise or this title. And this also gives us some insight on how they're so accessible to power armor and other pieces of technology that other factions have a very hard time getting their hands on. As we pick the right moment to creep into this battle and take advantage of the Deathclaw distraction, let's start looking at the Enclave in Fallout 3. So the Enclave again are in Fallout 3, and they are presented as a formidable and ruthless force. They seeking to reclaim America for its own vision, and their vision is one of purity. So in Fallout 3, some of the Enclave's key points are first being Purification Project. So in this game, as they are the main antagonists for the player, the Enclave's primary goal is to purify the human race of the effects of radiation, which sounds good in theory. However, the way they want to go about this is creating a quote unquote pure water supply using Project Purity. So, what could that mean? So, looking into the next one, military might. The Enclave possesses advanced technology, which includes powerful suits of power armor and advanced weaponry, which they keep to themselves and hoard in order to make sure their own safety and protection. Now, this is not something that a faction like the Minutemen would do. They would share or use the weaponry for the betterment of the people. Obviously, that is not what the ambitions of the Enclave were. So, going on, their leadership at this time. President John Henry Eden is in charge, and he serves as the face of the Enclave. He is a very charismatic yet ruthless leader who just wants to see the capital wasteland be purified. So, enemy of many. The Enclave is in direct conflict with the Brotherhood of Steel at this time in Fallout 3, and they are both arguing and fighting for control of the capital wasteland and its resources, and have differing opinions on how to control those things. And the last key point would be their use of propaganda. So the Enclave like to employ propaganda which manipulates the population, painting themselves as saviors or humankind's last hope for survival, while defamating their enemies and spreading misinformation about them in order to gain an upper hand and to have the popular vote. So, leading this campaign of propaganda is the Enclave's leadership at the time in Fallout 3. It was President John Henry Eden. He serves as the public face for the Enclave. He's a charismatic figure who promises a restored America. However, the Enclave's true power structure is much more complex, with military leaders and scientists playing crucial roles in leadership. Alright, shifting our focus and our laser muskets over to the last game in the franchise that has an Enclave presence in it, we touch down in West Virginia. So, while the Enclave in Fallout 76 might not hold the same central antagonistic role as in the previous titles, they still do have a presence, a significant force within the wasteland. Now, the Enclave that resides in Fallout 76 exists as a fractured remnant of its former self. It has established a presence in Appalachia, and they are occupying several nuclear silos, and their aim is to restore their power to former glory. So, their leadership in Fallout 76 starts with President Richard Eckhart, which leads the Enclave in West Virginia until his ultimate demise. Following his death, the Enclave leadership kind of remains unclear for us from here on out, suggesting a potential power vacuum or fragmented, splintered command structure. Either way, there's no one we can really look to as the leader of the Enclave at this point in time. Now, their goals, most of their goals remain unknown, although a few of their primary goals seem to be focused around reclaiming control over nuclear technology and potentially using it for their own ends. In Fallout 76, just like in the other games, they do have a lot of technology at their possession. The Enclave possess advanced technology, including the powerful XO1 power armor, which we see them have in Fallout 4 as well. And they also have access to the nuclear launch codes that the player is seeking in Fallout 76. This technological superiority definitely gives them a significant advantage over the other factions within the game. And also, unlike previous Fallout titles, in Fallout 76, the players actually have the unique option to join the Enclave in the game. And by aligning with them, they actually gain access to unique perks, weapons, and other abilities, such as the ability to actually launch a nuclear missile at someone, which is pretty sick if you ask me. I might side with them. Now, the Enclave in Fallout 76 presents a complex and multifaceted faction. It offers the player unique opportunities to explore their lore and motivations, and also their goals. You also get to benefit from their advanced technology, which is something that doesn't happen often in this franchise. Now, heading back after looking into the Enclave with a deeper scope, I think it's safe to say that their morals and ambitions are pretty selfish and just resolve around them and purifying America and making sure they're still in charge. So, they're not really the good guys. They're pretty easily identifiable as the bad guys. And that aligns up with what's happening in Fallout 4 after they get added into it. So, now that we know a little bit about our enemies, we know where they come from, what they want, and what their ultimate goals are. I think it's safe to say that we can start analyzing them in the Commonwealth and start to see what their ultimate goals are here locally for us. So, the first thing to address is we have two issues that are stemming from the Enclave at this point in time as the Minutemen General. So, issue number one is the propaganda war. So, as previously mentioned, the Enclave loves using propaganda as one of their favorite tactics when going to an area and trying to cause havoc. Now, the way that they go about this is actually very interesting. So, The Enclave are spreading their propaganda via iBots and holotapes. Now, we know about the iBots because we come across this in multiple encampments of theirs throughout the game in Fallout 4 so far, and we see them reprogramming iBots similarly to when they did this in Fallout 3, and we're spreading propaganda that way. Like I said, they've done this before. Now, the holotapes, we find this out due to a deserter, quote unquote. We'll get into that a little later. Now, the Enclave have repurposed slash reprogrammed Robco's very own iBots in order to serve them as their propaganda spreading machines of mayhem. These iBots now are equipped with the advanced audio visual capabilities, and they can project messages, display propaganda, and hand out posters. They even can engage in basic conversations to spread misinformation and to lie about opposing factions. That is very scary stuff, and exactly what the Minutemen and the Brotherhood of Steel were worried about when it comes to technology running amok. The Enclave seemed to have a different opinion of it. So that's a little bit about the first issue. Now, we're going to go, as the general, we're going to handle this with a few ways. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a focus on hacking slash destroying all of the Enclave equipment and iBots that we come across throughout our game. So anytime we come across this type of technology, we're just going to seize it or destroy it so they can't use it. And we also are having small teams deploy to the two camps that you see us taking here as we sneakily take the vantage point on top of the hill here so we can scope out the second base of the Enclave without getting caught. Our sneaky build here helps us get around all of the spotlights and laser turrets so we can get much closer to our enemies before actually deciding to attack or not. Now, the second issue that is going on for the Minutemen in the Enclave is not only are we battling for resources and territory, like with most of the other factions throughout the Commonwealth, the Enclave and the Minutemen are actually in a battle over radio waves right now. So the Enclave have been developing and establishing a system of satellite communication via satellites around the Commonwealth and other places, and they are also using this to spread their false propaganda, as well as using it as a recruitment tool for more soldiers for their cause. Now, the Minutemen are going to try and combat this one way. I have dispatched a small team to begin developing a quote unquote radio freedom prototype, which is to counteract the Enclave's false information about the Minutemen and even spread proper information and give helpful tips and tricks for anybody in the Commonwealth that needs help. Hopefully, this will set the Minutemen back on a positive set for the settlers and settlements, and the Minutemen will be back in everybody's good graces, except for the Enclaves. Now, this is a lot of information to take in, and we know a good bit of it from seizing their bases and going and raiding their headquarters in the previous episode. Now, some of the information, however, we've gotten through a bit of a different source. And what I mean by that is we have come in contact with a quote unquote enclave deserter. And he was an ex soldier from the enclave who became disillusioned with their questionable tactics, as oftentimes their ends justify the means for harsh, cruel experiments or other forms of torture. So it makes sense why he didn't agree with them after a while. It seems like a sane thing to do. However, he didn't just leave, he stole some equipment with him and took off. So that could be something that we have to address later in the future, as he did not seem to be the most trustworthy. And for all we know, he could be a double agent. So it's safe to say that we're going to put someone to tail him and keep an eye on him in case we have to tie up loose ends in the future. So after we've captured these multiple Enclave camps and resources, we're going to reverse engineer the new equipment and technology that we've recovered. and we're going to use it to advance the Minutemen's forces with major upgrades and improvements for weapons, armor, and communication. Now, the Minutemen differ from the other factions within the game because our priority is the safety and the rebuilding of the Commonwealth. Due to this, the Minutemen will establish more supply lines to evenly distribute the recovered resources that we get from these bases and these Enclave soldiers. We're not about hoarding everything for ourselves. It's better to make sure we share and get some resources evenly distributed so settlers have enough provisions and can continue thriving in living freely. Now, with our back-to-back successes here with these raids on the Enclave, this has allowed the Minutemen to focus on rapid expansion in the east part of the map. And you'll see here in the future, we are doing so, like I said, at a rapid rate, which is very good for our cause. So, in order to continue that, I've stationed units at both of those Enclave camps, and I'm having guards and different types of patrols in that area as well. Now, the western outpost and the eastern outpost that we have already claimed are going to be useful for our expansion in territory as well as exploring new regions. And due to this vast expansion east, Patrol Unit has also identified a new potential location of interest for a future settlement, i.e., codename Spectacle Island. In order for us to succeed long term as the Minutemen in this wasteland, however, we will need to establish relations with new and old local settlers and far settlers in order to open trade lines and to remain on top of everything in the wasteland. Now, the way we're going about doing this so far is by me having careful diplomacy, charisma, and very good negotiation skills with these settlers slash settlements. And you can't treat them all the same either. Some want gaps, some just want protection, some just want food. It's all about making sure you give them what they need and making sure they're taken care of. Now, that being said, I hope that was able to provide a deeper look at the Enclave throughout the Fallen franchises, as well as give a little bit of insight on what they're doing here in the Commonwealth and Fallout 4 when they weren't to begin with. And I hope that you guys got to enjoy the little bit of lore from my own gameplay that I added in there and got to expand upon the world myself. 'Cause that's fun and that's what the series is all about, right? I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know. Like I said, I read every comment. I read
Nice.
every comment you guys put down there, all of them. So feel free to say whatever you want. Ketchup, mustard, hot dog sauce packets, whatever you want. I'll read it, even if it's silly. Let me know if you liked it. Let me know if you didn't like it. And let me know what you think I should do next. Because I love playing video games. I like making content. Other than that, the General and the Minutemen will see you guys in the next one. At ease, soldier.